Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be while you're listening to the podcast. We are so glad you are here listening to 3Squares. It's going to be a great show today. We have a lot to cover on sustainability, and it's so in depth that we thought we would offer each of you a personal perspective today on an issue that we see being specifically relevant to the food system. I'm Charlie Arnott. I am with CFI, the Center for Food Integrity, and Look East, and we are dedicated to keeping the food system trustworthy. My co-hosts, Susan Schwally and Kevin Ryan. Susan?
Hey, Susan Schwally. I'm a consultant who advises companies on go-to-market strategies and driving growth in the consumer insight sector.
I'm Kevin Ryan with Malachite Strategy and Research, helping CPG retailers and ingredient companies with the front end of innovation and strategy.
Excellent. And we have some guests joining us live today on the podcast. So if you have questions you would like to direct our way, please send them, and we'll try to get to those before we get to the quiz. But each of us has kind of picked a topic around sustainability. This is global, but it's also personal. And based on our experience in the food system, each of us has a slightly different perspective, and welcome your feedback and comments on it as well. But we'll get to our perspectives and then go to the quiz and kind of go from there. So Kevin, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah. So as I was starting to think about, there's so much sustainability, news and things like that out there that's, interesting. But it's a lot of it, or at least, up until recently, I felt a lot of it was, a lot of words more than it was actually doing something. But recently I saw some spins data that I thought was really interesting. And they were talking about how the uptick of different type of grains, more sustainable grains, but also just like grains like buckwheat or quinoa and things like that, and how they're being used in the food system in CPG. It's not what you think, or at least it's not what I was thinking. There's definitely, companies out there that are doing like buckwheat cookies and things like that. But what the spins data showed, which I thought was interesting, was that they're being added in small amounts to CPG company products in a way to have a, sustainability message, but also I think, and this wasn't, of course, mentioned from the data, but I think get people used to the idea of having it in the product. And what's interesting about it is a lot of the products that are out there, not only, like I said, buckwheat, quinoa, kernza, things like that. What's interesting about them is not only are they, raised sustainably, but a lot of them from a climate change perspective, they're able to grow in hardier, or they're hardier, and they can grow in, conditions that maybe wheat or traditional crops could not grow in. So I think that's, to me, that's super interesting. It's like an interesting, because if you would have asked me maybe 5 years ago what I saw, I mean, I remember even writing sometime in my newsletter about how I saw the uptick in buckwheat and that we're going to see more buckwheat products and things like that, which we're seeing that. But I had not predicted that this small, there's products out there from like Purely Elizabeth, and there's products out there like from General Mills, Cascadian Farms has the Kernza wheat and all that kind of stuff. It's the small amounts that is kind of interesting to me, which also I think is quite smart. I think because I don't think people are used to these. Although I will mention that, I mean, everyone I think knows I used to work for General Mills, that years ago, General Mills used to have a buckwheat cereal, which was like way ahead.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they did, which I've always thought, oh, they should totally bring that back. But anyway, I thought it was a super interesting, just like the progression of these sustainable products, and to mention the sustainable products in addition to adding in, traditional type of grains.
So what about scalability? So I'd love your perspective on, the strategy of introducing them in small scale to get people accustomed to seeing them on the ingredient label and realizing, oh, this is okay, right?
Yeah.
I'm happy consuming this. What about scalability, Kevin?
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the great strategy behind it, which is, how many growers are going to turn over their crop away from something like wheat and towards something like buckwheat, and going to say, I'm going to put my money on this. So I think what it could be is that we're going to test the water, see if people react positively to it. And also, I would say even getting people used to the flavors, because a lot of these, specifically buckwheat, has a stronger flavor. I think that then you could see a a slower scale up towards something versus we're going to turn completely over to something, of that. So I think in that way, I think it makes sense from a farmer perspective too, is like, I'm not going to make a big bet on something. Although I do see that with a couple of corporations that they are kind of hedging their bets, or hedging the farmers' bets by saying, we want you to grow these crops and we're going to buy the crop ahead of time. You know what I mean? So that they don't feel like it's a big gamble.
Yeah, I think some long-term contracts will probably be what's required in order to secure financing and get farmers to take that. If it's not an economic risk, it's still a cultural risk and a personal psychological risk, because now you're asking me to do something that I've never done before.
Right.
And I'm not as comfortable that that's going to be successful because I know how to do this. Now you want me to do that.
Right.
And so the incentive for that level of change is going to have to be significant.
Yeah. And I'm excited by the idea of, I know there's a lot of work trying to produce wheat and corn that is, more climate resistant, a warmer climate, but a lot of these, alternative grains and, they're much hardier. So it's going to be interesting to see the kind of diversity of crops in the future as we start thinking about climate change.
The other thing that could be interesting is if more of it is being grown, and you mentioned the taste, maybe there will be developments where they change that. I mean, we all know what's happened to Brussels sprouts. They're not quite as tart as they used to be, to get the consumer to accept it. And I'm thinking about buckwheat and quinoa. Like, I'm sure there's also different consumer benefits in terms of health that might start to get. Do they have more fiber, Kevin?
They do. They're both higher in fiber, higher in protein. At least quinoa is higher in fiber, and then omega-3s. I mean, you see a lot more omega-3, especially within, buckwheat, farro, which is more ancient version of wheat. So, I mean, you're definitely seeing a higher nutritional perspective on these type of alternative grains.
That's also where the gene editing could come into play. Because Susan, to your point, how can you modify the taste profile to make it more palatable? And Pairwise is a company that did that with some leafy greens, mustard greens, and made them, the same palatability as kale. We're not going to get into kale and my feelings about kale because I'm not paying you to be a therapist. But, that is the opportunity, I think, to go in and relatively rapidly make changes to specific crops in a very precise, very intentional way to make them more palatable, to make them more drought resistant. So it'll be interesting to see how these technologies and these currently, novel grains or less common grains come together to adapt to climate change.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see the future of how if they become a standard grain that is used, and we're seeing a lot more of that within, big brands, or whether or not we maintain this idea of, there's a functionality aspect to it too. Wheat and corn are what they are because of the functionality aspect of it. So until we create either different taste or different abilities with these grains, we'll see where it goes. So
maybe you could feature them in your next Betty Crocker cookbook.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
You know what though? I am seeing, I'm like surrounded by cookbooks here. There are a lot more that are alternative grains. That's been going on for the last 5 to 10 years. And I think people are getting more used to that heartier, stronger flavor. I think that, we're seeing more of that. So.
Well, and you wrote about that in one of your newsletters, particularly with boomers, as their taste becomes, they've got to have stronger flavors in order to appreciate the taste.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe boomers will lead the way.
Maybe. It's possible.
Maybe. I also think that some of this alternative grain movement, if you will, slow, but over time, has to do with the fact that a lot of people are not able to eat wheat. I know that I can eat buckwheat. Right. I can eat quinoa. So I think there's some of that too that has introduced it a little bit more. So maybe it'll go more mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to switch, but I'm going to stay on the kind of the corporate side as well. Many listeners may know that I'm a bit of a fanboy for Costco. As I said, yeah, it's true. As I mentioned before,
Costco hot dogs you have a week, Charlie.
No, well, not as many as I'd like. Not as many as I'd like, because I just can't get there quite as frequently. But as I shared before we went, everything I'm wearing today, except for socks and shoes, came from Costco. right? So that's the kind of fanboy I am. But this isn't unique to Costco. It's not only at Costco, but one of the things that's happening is a very intentional, very rapid change in packaging. And that packaging is being designed to be much more sustainable. Anybody here know how many rotisserie chickens Costco sells every year?
Oh,
137 million.
Wow.
137 million, and they're priced at $4.99 for 3 pounds. But every time I go in to get a 3-pound bird for $4.99, I spend $150.
Right, loss leader.
It's a brilliant strategy. It's a
Yeah.
brilliant strategy on their part. But
Yeah.
you might have been reading that they've gone away from the plastic packaging, the clamshell that they were using for years and years and years. You could see the chicken inside and all of that, but they've gone to a bag. And there was some pushback. There was some pushback from folks who said, I'm not as comfortable with this. And I know when I pick up the bag and I put it on my cart, I want to make sure it doesn't leak. And that's purely psychological, right? I mean, it's been designed to be just as effective. But what's really impressive is that bag takes up 75%, is made of 75% less plastic than the clamshell container. 75% reduction on 137 million rotisserie chickens a year.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant. And Kevin, I need you to jump in here. Again, this was in one of your earlier newsletters, but their signature line of nuts has gone from, again, kind of that clamshell packaging to the packet, the envelope, and that's reduced that packaging by 85%. Now, what percentage of cashews in the world does Costco sell? You had that on one of your
I
newsletters.
did have it. It's in their book. But I know they sell more than any other.
Yeah, by far. I mean,
far.
It's a ridiculous number. I mean, it's a huge number. So again,
huge.
if you think of the scale of this, and then just reading a little bit about some of the other, their tempura shrimp, where they've, eliminated the foam tray and they put it in a smaller box, 250,000 pounds of paper and plastic are reduced from that product alone. Yeah. So, it's, in my mind, this is where the impact is going to happen, is at the corporate level and at in the packaging and other things that are happening there, because we have such a dysfunctional recycling system in the United States that it's not likely to happen at the consumer level, with the exception of paper and cardboard, right? There are more than 9,000 individual recycling programs across the United States. And if you're going to recycle plastic and other kinds of products, you have to be able to do that at scale. And with more than 9,000 recycling programs, you don't get the scale to do plastic, to do styrofoam or polystyrene. All of those require scale in order to make it economically viable. One of the reasons that you see it happening at the corporate level with Costco and I'm sure other retailers and other CPGs is there's an economic benefit. So not only is there an environmental benefit, but there's an economic benefit if all of a sudden you are shipping 250,000 pounds less of paper just for tempura shrimp, not to mention what you're shipping for 137 million rotisserie chickens and right? Yeah. So there's a phenomenal economic benefit in addition to being an environmental benefit. But we struggle with that at the consumer level because we have such a disintegrated system here, as opposed to Europe and other parts of the world where they have a national strategy or an EU strategy and an EU plan. All of our recycling is done at the community level. So most of them, because of the economic value, will be able to sort paper and cardboard. But after that, starts to get pretty questionable. And you may have read or listened to the NPR story earlier this week or saw the litigation that California has filed against the oil companies, claiming that they're saying that, plastic is recyclable is false advertising. And then you go to Tetra Paks, right? So, I mean, you've got the whole continuum.
Don't get me started.
Oh, man. From cardboard to Tetra Paks. And sure, they might be recyclable if you had them at scale, if you had the right technology, if. But with 9,000 plus recycling programs across the country, that's not going to happen. So our progress in reducing packaging's impact on the environment is going to come at the corporate level. It's not going to come at the consumer level. Yeah. And so that's why I'm excited to see, Costco as an example. And I don't have a Costco tattoo, but I might get one for Christmas. Costco and the other leading retailers kind of take the aggressive position they are. Because from my perspective, that's where real impact is going to happen.
Yeah. What you said about the idea that when it makes an economic impact on their bottom line, that makes it stick a lot more.
Right.
So
Right.
I saw Home Depot this week is moving away from expanded polystyrene in their larger pieces of their own brand,
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure, I don't know the details, but I'm guessing that a lot of it is both the environmental side as well as the economic side, the weight and all that kind of stuff that they can kind of move toward on some of the other things they're replacing it with. So I agree with you. I think that that's where it really is going to stick.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we're likely to see more of is extended producer responsibility, where if you produce this product, which has an impact on the environment, there is now a toll on you to be able to account for that. And that begins to make other solutions more economically viable, right?
Yes.
If you are in a sector that's producing product X and there's essentially an environmental tax because you produce X, well, now you have the revenue, you have the cash to begin to develop solutions that without that revenue stream, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of creative things that are happening that may not get the consumer attention as much as, the circle and putting your whatever it is in the recycling bin because it makes us feel good.
Right.
But the real difference is happening at the corporate side.
You'll be amazed how many brands, though, I've talked to them about EPR and they don't know what even that is yet. So there's still a way to go with thinking about that as, and scope 1, 2, 3. It's not a language that a lot of people, which I think it's going to have to change. Yeah,
EPR will happen first, I think, with packaging. I mean, that's an easy one because the direct connection to the revenue source can make a real difference in what we are actually going to be recycling.
Yeah.
Is anyone actually placing tolls? Is there any state or anyone doing this?
Yeah. There are states that are doing it now, but again, you have this fractured process, right?
Yeah.
So if you live in this state or in this county or in this city, but we don't have a larger strategy, which is why it has to go back to the producer, Susan. It's got to go back to the producer to say, okay, if you're producing this, and whether it's through their association or through some kind of negotiated settlement with EPA, extended producer responsibility is really a pretty effective tool for generating the revenue to allow for the creation of more comprehensive and effective recycling strategies.
Yeah. There's different municipalities are so different than others. It's really hard to scale on that part. So exactly to Charlie's point, it has to start, I think, at the company level, corporate level.
Yeah. I mean, even in a city like Kansas City, where you have several different municipalities that constitute the Kansas City metropolitan area, even within the city, you have different municipalities that have different recycling policies.
Right.
So it's goofy.
But Kansas City, you have this like state line through. Yeah, that's just weird, Charlie.
It is weird. And it creates a lot of confusion for people, but I can draw you a map and kind of explain it on this side and then on this side, right? It's not that tough.
We had to explain that to someone. I can't remember. That was kind of funny.
It's hard. Yeah. And flight attendants are forever saying, "Welcome to Kansas" when you land. It's like, no. Airportt's in Missouri. But thank you. Yeah.
One of the things that I love about living in Michigan is that we have a 10-cent can deposit. So you return your cans. They do not go in the garbage. So that's one thing that's nice. I wish every state had that, but I know that puts pressure on the retailers then, like Meijer for all the, they have to have the recycling machines, to bring it back. But that's just one recycling thing that I do like about living here.
Yeah. Well, and with aluminum and tin, I mean, those two are also commodities where there is enough economic value to justify recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my item is related to packaging, is related to how do we reduce packaging, but it's on the consumer side. It's actually in the kitchen. Now, granted, the scale isn't there that we're talking about, and it's actually not a new idea. So I got this from my son. My 13-year-old came home from school telling me about a machine called Milk. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? He's in a class that is about teaching kids how to negotiate life. Like right now, they have to figure out how to buy a used car for $8,500.
That's cool.
That's
cool. The thing that they were doing is they were watching Shark Tank. So I don't know if they were teaching them about VCs,
negotiation, maybe.
Whatever.
Negotiation.
Right. He's like, I saw this milk machine on Shark Tank. And in fact, it's called New Milk. And it was on Shark Tank 3 years ago.
Hmm.
But what I think is interesting about it, I mean, you guys know that I have a love of what consumers do in the kitchen and what appliances could potentially impact how we cook, what we do, and sustainability.
Right.
So that's why I brought this one forward. Not a new idea. Basically, what it does is you order pouches, you put it in the machine with a reusable container, and you rehydrate it.
Hmm.
Okay, well, over 100 years ago, Campbell Soup did this with condensed. That was the reason. They were probably the first ones that said, we're not going to ship liquid, Tide Pods, Soda Stream. Not a new idea, but what else can we do in the kitchen to reduce packaging and make a DIY kind of system easier for clients? So it's called new milk. It's not dairy milk. It's oat-based, cashew-based, almond-based milks. A lot of them are flavored. You can get plain. It's on my Christmas list now. It's about anywhere between 175 and 199 bucks for the machine. Pods are, I think, about maybe $4 each. But their claim is fresh taste, less waste, sustainability start to finish. Now, I don't know about the start because I don't know on the ag side, and we all know nuts can be very water intensive. But they're claiming 8 times less packaging weight, 90% less shipping weight, and 160 fewer cartons in the landfill per family. So there's some interesting things about that. And the flavors are pretty compelling. And some of the alternative milks are in like aseptic or Tetra Pak kind of products. And if they're not, they're in the refrigerator case. So now you're not refrigerating this stuff and shipping it.
Yeah.
So again, not a new idea, but like to the extent of like what different things can we get in people's kitchens to reconstitute, if you will, or prepare products differently so we're not shipping as much around.
Why do you need a machine?
Yeah.
It just seems like, I mean, when I was a kid, we make Kool-Aid. I mean, I know it's not different. It's
You
different,
mix
but
it.
yeah, you just mix it in a counter. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Why would you need a machine? It feels, I don't know. At the top of it, when I hear it, I'd like a machine. I'm like, oh, so that they can sell you a machine. But maybe there's a reason. I don't know. Maybe it sits on your counter or something like that. I don't know. What did you?
It does sit on your counter. I don't know enough about the mechanics of what it does, but you're right. Like, for instance, my son is always buying pouches just to put in water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there must be something about it that it needs. Now, I do know it talks about how it takes pulp out.
Oh, okay.
So there may be something going on there, but I mean, maybe they'll get this down. I mean, clearly there's, a dry milk.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah.
not popular in the US.
So they're shipping you a pouch that still has like almond hulls in it or something. If it's pulp.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's different. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
What was the beverage machine that Mike Wolf promoted when we had him on a couple of years ago? What was it?
Cocktail maker.
Okay, so I put down the $100 deposit or whatever, right? Because I spend money every time Mike Wolf's on the show. I buy whatever he's talking about because it's always so cool. Whatever, I mean, king of following innovation. So, but anyway, they weren't able to make that work, and I got my $100 back.
Oh,
which I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
because I just kind of thought, well, it's gone, but maybe it'll show up someday, maybe it won't. But I got this lovely email from them saying, we tried our best, did everything we could. Turned out the concept wasn't viable. Here's your $100, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah.
But
cool.
I love those ideas of you see those for bar machines and other things where put it in this alcohol, that alcohol, and you get your own cocktail coming out. So.
I love the idea of the dehydrated aspect. I mean, there's a couple of things. I know that there was a company, I think it's still around, that does dehydrated condiments, like the powdered ketchup, powdered mustard, and then you rehydrate it when you need it to the consistency you need it. And I mean, it's just interesting. You're seeing a lot of the dehydration and all that kind of stuff, and to your point, not to ship around water. So I like the idea.
That'll be fascinating to see if it catches on at the consumer level. I think I can see that at food service, but it's so different. Again, changing consumer mindset. So you're not getting the bottle of ketchup, you're getting a packet of powder and just add water. That's
well, their thing too
shift.
was that you could then use it to like make fun drinks too, because you could like put it around the rim. You could do like a Bloody
Oh,
Mary
yeah,
with like
yeah,
a ketchup.
yeah.
I mean, they had some interest.
That
I
would
thought
be
that
fun.
their marketing of it was interesting and be like, no, we can do different things with it that maybe you couldn't do before, which I thought, oh, that's cool. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Great conversation. We will continue this. If you have a suggestion for a guest that would be great to talk about climate change and sustainability and how the food system is adapting or could adapt, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to any one of us, or you can send it to 3Squares Mail, the numeral 3squaresmail@gmail.com. Now it's time for the quiz.
That's right. It's the time for the quiz. And remind me, did you win this?
I
You
did.
did. Okay.
He
Not
did,
that we're
yeah.
counting. Not that we're counting.
No.
No.
Yes,
Never
we are.
counting.
Well,
Yes.
this month, I thought, I don't know if you saw, but Coca-Cola had they're discontinuing I don't want to say a bunch. I think it's like 3 different drinks that they like spiced, which was not around very long. And it got me thinking about just soft drinks in general, just the idea and where they are in their ebb and flow. So I thought we'd do the whole quiz on soft drinks. That'd be kind of cool.
Yes.
All right. So question 1, why do we call soft drinks soda? Okay. Is it A, early natural carbonated water was high in sodium, so we called it sodium water or soda water for short?
Ooh.
B, so comes from the Latin solam, meaning earth or ground, and da comes from Latin dapus, meaning force or energy. So soda means
Is
force.
that true? Is that
That's
the
part of the
Latin
question.
Oh, so you
Part
might
of the
have made the
question.
Latin up. Okay.
So
It's more
soda.
impressive if it's not the answer that he looked up the etymology of these words, come up with this multiple
I wouldn't be
choice.
surprised though. I mean,
So
that's
I'm going to
Kevin.
push through.
All right, sorry.
Soda means the force from the ground, referring to like a natural spring water. C, it comes from baking soda or bicarbonate of soda, one of the original ingredients from carbonated early drinks. Or D, it comes from the early 19th century popular advertisement for soft drinks, referring to them as a soothing coda to your day, with soothing coda shortened to soda.
I'm going to go with C. It's the very simple answer, and it's not nearly as elaborate. These were all fabulous options, but I'm going to go with C.
Susan?
Wow. First one?
The sodium water? Is that the one? You are correct, Susan. It is from sodium water. It comes from sodium water. It was just a shortening of sodium water.
And I know that club soda still has a fairly high sodium content.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And so but the natural, like stuff that you get from the ground, oftentimes was high in sodium. Yeah. All right. Number 2, pharmacist John Pemberton was inspired to create Coca-Cola after sampling which of the following beverages? Was it A, a French tonic wine made from a mix of Bordeaux red wine and cocaine? B, a rural Georgia folk medicine drink made from boiled birch and elm bark sweetened with sorghum syrup? C, a ceremonial beverage consumed in Brazil made from cola nuts and corn alcohol? Or D, a tea his mother always made him when he was ill, composed of tea leaves, prunes, and cinnamon?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I'm tempted to go with alcohol or cocaine, or maybe alcohol and cocaine, but they aren't the same answer.
No.
So I'm going to go with B, the Georgia, whatever it was.
Folk medicine. Yeah.
Folk medicine.
Okay. Yeah. Susan?
Is that prune one?
The tea his mother made him when he was ill with tea leaves, prunes, and cinnamon?
Yeah.
Yeah. You are all incorrect.
Charlie?
No, it was the cocaine in Bordeaux, right?
It was the cocaine in Bordeaux.
Yes. Dang it, I thought about it.
So he was inspired by
that would be inspiring.
Yeah, by a popular drink.
Kill you?
Well, I don't know. It depends.
Apparently
I mean,
not.
the original Coca-Cola, and I went down a rabbit hole when studying this, only carried 9 milligrams of cocaine, which I don't know if that's a lot. I don't know. But this one was called Vin Mariani, which was invented in France, and it was a mixture of Bordeaux red wine. And it was marketed as that it fortifies and refreshes the body and brain. I'm sure it did.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, number 3.
I think the FTC might have some challenges with that
Probably.
today.
Yeah.
Number 3, what is the unusual connection between early soft drinks and St. Patrick's Cathedral?
Oh, my.
Okay. Was it A, James Verner, the creator of the disputed first U.S. soft drink, Verner's Ginger Ale? was critical in raising money for the cathedral and to build the cathedral, and had his factory blessed by the cathedral's first priest? Was it B, in the 1990s, Pepsi's was in talks to create ad sponsorship of the cathedral when its remodeling and reconstruction funding was in jeopardy? Was it C, chemist and entrepreneur John Matthews used the scrap marble from the building of the cathedral to create his artificially carbonated soda? Or was it D, New York soft drink brand Jones Soda had a limited time only mint flavored soft drink called St. Patrick's Pop, featuring the cathedral on the label for St. Patrick's Day?
Gonna go D.
You are so good at this. You went with the
Was
last
that
one?
Susan?
I'm going
the
D.
Jones Soda. Jones Soda.
I'm going to go with A since she went the other direction.
Okay, you are all incorrect. It was C. So
The marble?
The marble. In order to create carbonic acid, the English chemist John Matthews used powdered calcium carbonate in Britain. But when he got to the US, he found that he couldn't find as much calcium carbonate. But he did say that when they were building St. Patrick's Cathedral, he's like, I'll take all your scrap marble. And he got enough scrap marble to make 25 million gallons of effervescent water, also called charged water back then. So that's the connection, that St. Patrick Cathedral was the source of a lot of that sparkling water. All right.
You are a font of knowledge.
Number 4. And this one, Susan, you have a little bit of an Yeah.
Okay.
Faygo soda, if you're familiar, comes
Yes.
from Detroit or Detroit area. Faygo soda was founded in 1907 by the Russian-born Fagerson brothers in Michigan. What were the original flavors of Faygo soda modeled on? Like, why did they make the original flavors they did? Was it A, the brothers originally produced syrups for medicine production, and the flavors were commonly used to mask the flavor of medicine? Was it B, the fruit flavors were seasonally produced based on old Russian recipes for the fermented fruit drink kvass? Was it C, the brothers were originally bakers and based their flavors on frosting recipes? Or was it D, the brothers saw the popularity of candy in America and thought to make beverages based on the popular fruit candies of the period?
D. Candy, baby.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Candy.
I'm going candy.
D.
You can go candy too. We can
go
both
candy
go candy
too. You going candy, Susan?
Yeah, I'm going candy.
Okay, you're all incorrect. It was C.
Ah.
They were originally bakers, and they based it so that their first 3 soda flavors were grape, fruit punch, and strawberry. All of them were originally frostings.
Grape frosting?
Yeah, grape frosting. Yeah. Last one. Dr. Pepper is often called America's first soft drink. Invented at Wade Morrison's old corner drugstore in Waco, Texas in 1885. However, when it was first invented, people didn't ask for a Dr. Pepper when they went into that store. What did they ask for? Did people ask for A, a Waco? Did they ask for B, Wade's Special? C, the Curative? Or D, Dr. Pepper with an H?
I'm going to go Wade Special, but it's probably wrong.
Susan?
I'll go D.
D, Dr. Pepper. Nope, you are incorrect. People just asked for a Waco.
A Waco.
A Waco. Before it became Dr. Pepper, without the period, it's just doctor. There's no period after doctor, by the way. Patrons simply ordered a Waco. But the soda's official name is said to come from Dr. Francis Pepper, a doctor who Wade Morrison who gave Wade Morrison permission to marry his daughter, even though he never married her. That's a whole nother story.
Wow. So we have a listener who said, wow, those are great quiz questions. And they are. Kevin, you are a master. You should have your own quiz show on the Game Show Network. After your cook, you can go from the Cooking Network to the Game Show Network.
Okay.
You could. I also want you to know, if I don't show up for a podcast next month, it's because I've been Googling how much is 9 grams of cocaine on my phone.
Milligrams, not grams.
Not grams.
Oh, yeah.
Milligrams.
Oh, no.
Milligrams.
9 grams in a glass of wine, that would kill you. That would kill you.
I did determine 9 grams is a lot for one sitting. I also determined that 28, however it's recreation, it's like a personal use amount. It lasts some people on Reddit a week. It depends on your usage. And 28 grams is what will get you in jail for being a dealer.
Okay.
So now we know.
So now you know.
Now we know.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not like at work at a
I'm
corporate level.
very
we wouldn't
curious
see
as
you.
to
No,
why you
I'm on
chose
my
to Google
phone.
those. So, yeah, interesting. All
I
right.
have no idea. I'm a curious mind.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are curious in so many ways. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the September edition of 3Squares. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Join us again in October. And in the meantime, again, you can reach out to us at 3squaresmail, the numeral 3squaresmail at gmail.com. Have a great last few days of September, and we will see you again next month. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.